Story 1. The Haunting Whisper. It was supposed to be a simple weekend getaway, a chance to escape the bustle of the city. I had been dreaming of hiking in the remote wilderness for months. A friend had suggested a secluded cabin near the Appalachian Mountains, and I thought nothing of it, just nature, fresh air, and a few nights to recharge. When we arrived at the cabin, everything seemed perfect, almost too perfect. The air was crisp, the trees towering above, and the silence was a welcome break from the noise of the outside world. There was an eerie stillness about the place, but I chalked it up to the isolation. We spent the first day exploring the woods, the usual trail of excitement running through our veins. But as the sun began to dip below the horizon, a strange unease settled in. We lit a fire, cracking open a bottle of wine, the soft warmth of the flames contrasting with the growing chill in the air. It was then that we heard the whisper. At first, I thought it was the wind. Nature had a way of playing tricks on you. But then it happened again, louder this time. It was unmistakably a voice, faint but clear. My heart began to race. My friend, sitting across from me, must have sensed it too. We both looked around, trying to trace the sound, but there was nothing there. No animals, no wind, just the unsettling silence. We laughed nervously, brushing it off as a figment of our imagination. But as the evening went on, the whisper grew stronger. It was coming from inside the house, echoing through the walls. "Help me," it said. The words were chilling, and they seemed to grow closer. We checked every room, every corner, and found nothing. That night, I couldn't sleep. The sound of footsteps pacing through the cabin kept me awake. Every creak of the wooden floorboards sent a wave of dread over me. By morning, I was ready to leave, but my friend insisted that it was nothing. We were alone in that cabin, weren't we? When we returned home, I did some research. I discovered that the cabin had a dark past years ago. A woman had disappeared while hiking in those very woods. Her body was never found, but locals claimed they heard her calling out for help during the nights before her disappearance. Could it have been her voice? The eerie whispers, the footsteps, and that feeling of being watched still haunt me to this day. I've never returned to that cabin, and I don't think I ever will. Story 2. The Man in the Mirror. It was a cold, rainy night when I first encountered him. I had just moved into a new apartment, a quaint little place on the edge of town. The walls were painted a pale blue, and the hardwood floors creaked underfoot. It was an older building, but it had character at least. That's what I told myself. I was unpacking in the living room when I noticed an old mirror hanging on the wall across from me. It was ornate, with intricate gold detailing around the edges. I hadn't noticed it when I first viewed the apartment, but now it seemed to have an almost magnetic presence. There was something strange about it, like it didn't belong. That night, I went to bed, exhausted from moving boxes and setting up. I had barely closed my eyes when I heard a faint scratching sound. I opened my eyes, disoriented. The room was pitch black except for the faint glow from the streetlight outside. The scratching continued, louder now. I couldn't tell where it was coming from, but it was coming closer. I turned over to check the clock. 3:00 a.m., and then, just as the scratching seemed to reach my bed, I saw it. In the mirror across the room, a figure appeared. A man, standing motionless, staring directly at me. His face was distorted, his features shadowed in the dim light. His eyes were hollow, dark voids that seemed to draw me in. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest, and my throat went dry. The man in the mirror didn't move. He just stood there, staring. But the longer I looked, the more his expression seemed to twist into something sinister. I couldn't tear my gaze away. In a desperate attempt to snap out of the trance, I blinked and rubbed my eyes. The figure vanished. but I could still feel his presence, his gaze burning into me. I quickly got out of bed and turned on the light, but when I glanced back at the mirror, there was nothing there. The next morning, I took the mirror down. I couldn't explain it, but I knew I couldn't live with it in my apartment. I later found out that the previous tenant had died under mysterious circumstances, and the apartment had been empty for years before I moved in. Was the man in the mirror him, or something else entirely? To this day, I can't walk past a mirror without feeling a chill run down my spine. I still wonder who or what I saw that night, and why it chose to appear to me. Story 3, The Shadow in the Hallway. I never believed in ghosts, not until that night. I've always been a logical person, driven by reason and skepticism. But something happened in my childhood home that I can never explain. It started with the feeling. Every night, without fail, I would feel as though someone was watching me. I'd brush it off as paranoia too many late nights, too many horror movies. But the feeling grew stronger, and eventually it started to manifest. I would wake up in the middle of the night to the sound of footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate steps. I'd peek out from my bedroom door and see nothing. At first, I thought it was just my parents, or maybe the house settling. But then it happened again. And again. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I gathered the courage to step into the hallway, my heart pounding in my chest. The hallway was dark, but as I walked towards the staircase, I saw it. A shadow, tall and indistinct, standing at the top of the stairs. It didn't move, but I felt it. It was watching me. I turned to run back to my room, but before I could move, I felt a cold hand on my shoulder. I spun around, but there was nothing there. My body was paralyzed, my mind racing. I closed my eyes and waited for the sensation to fade, but it lingered. I could feel the presence just behind me, like a breath on the back of my neck. That night, I couldn't sleep. The shadow was there, just out of sight, but always present. My parents never believed me when I told them. They said it was just a nightmare, a trick of the mind. But I knew what I felt, and I knew what I saw. Years have passed, and I've since moved out of that house. But every time I walk into a dark hallway, I feel the presence of that shadow. It's like a memory that refuses to fade, a memory that I can't explain but can't shake. This is a start to the 3 true horror stories, focusing on the eerie, unsettling nature of the events, the deep emotional impact, and the lingering sense of fear. Each story explores a different supernatural encounter, creating a varied and compelling narrative. If you would like me to expand further on these stories or delve into more details, let me know.